Just like that, week 18 is over. 18 weeks of Pass the Rock, man, coming to an end. Also, the NFL season happened to end this weekend. This is Pass the Rock.
Could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey, yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian.
Yeah.
Posting like Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
flying to see the pie.
Yeah.
Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of out of lefties, from football to racing jackies. He go silly when he go deep, sheesh, is Zach Zeman. Teaming up with Jack, we stack the whole team, man. Pass the rock, don't stop the shot clock.
Woo.
Smack the slap shot, come on, now let's talk. Pass the, yo, partner, pass the rock. For real.
Boys, one season has come and gone. It feels like just yesterday we were giving our preseason rankings and predictions, and all of us had the Bengals and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Quite a way we've come since that point. Zach, I'm going to start with you. You've probably had the roughest weekend out of all of us. How you doing?
Dude, I stopped watching at like the end of the first half. I'm not gonna lie. I knew we were cooked. I didn't think we were this cooked. But you know what? Other than that, pretty solid weekend. Came back to school, getting ready for a new semester. Not trying world like Jack is right now. So, staying pretty grounded. Very excited for the playoffs, though. Very excited to see what happens, and very excited for tonight's national championship.
And Jack, how you doing over there? And it's pretty late where you are. Why don't you tell the people where you're at?
Yeah, I'm coming at you from Barcelona. So this is a next level of commitment. But I don't know. I guess over here I'm starting to get more used to a different kind of football. But, I can still talk some NFL. So it's good to be back with you guys. And this is going to be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. They got all the beaches and parties and nightlife in Barcelona, and he's at home recording Pass the Rock with the two of us. So tells you a little bit about the life Jack has. No, I'm kidding. We appreciate the hardcore commitment when obviously we realize you could be enjoying all the things that Barca has to offer. So with that being said, let's start off with some NBA talk. I know that basketball is big over there in Spain. Shout out Ricky Rubio, by the way. He just retired a couple days ago. I'm sure that they'll throw him a parade at some point. The first round of All-Star voting just dropped. Who was the biggest snub? Zach, I'm looking at you. You don't really have much to complain about. You got two of your guys in the top 5 right now, sitting pretty.
No, yeah, I don't have a lot to complain about, although I am definitely surprised that Damian Lillard is the second highest guard. I feel like that's kind of a weird pick to have second. I mean, Trae Young's having a phenomenal season. Donovan Mitchell's having a really good season. Tyrese Maxey's having a really good season. And Jalen Brunson also having a phenomenal season. All 4 of those guys you could put in that second spot over Dame. I think it would be more representative of who's having the better season. So that was the one big, that was the one weird thing to me. Other than that, I mean, you could definitely argue that Shea should start over Curry, but that's like kind of a preference thing. Like you could pretty much go either or with that. I don't see too many issues with the first wave of voting. I think for the most part, they're pretty much fine.
Jack, anyone left off the list?
Oh, I don't know about left off the list, but there's one name that I have to talk about. If I can direct your attention to number 7 in the West, is Ja Morant. Has he played? What has he played? 6 games?
He's up to 10 games now, I think.
Oh, he's up to 10 games now? Okay. Well, I don't know. Sure, he's Ja Morant. He's played solidly so far. But, come on. Through 10 games of his season, he's already up to number 7 in the West. That's insane to me.
I just love that no matter what he does, there's no way he could average 55 points a game for the next 2 weeks. He's not making the All-Star game.
No chance.
Not on the NBA's watch this year.
Even if the fans decide to give him the Zaza Pachulia treatment, there's no way.
Yeah.
More votes than De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is below Ja Morant, and that's ridiculous. But
also, Kyrie Irving, just off of name value alone, is 5th in the West.
Yeah, on voting. I don't like that either.
He hasn't even played in the last month.
Him being ahead of Anthony Edwards is criminal.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely criminal. Anthony Edwards should be number 4 on this list. I don't know why Kyrie and James Harden are still receiving so many votes. I know it's based off of their name and everything, but come on, the All-Star game can't just be the same 10 guys every single season. Another guy who's on this list purely because of name value. I have not seen a Klay Thompson highlight in probably 2 years at this point.
Yeah.
He's 9 for the guards, and that's wild. Austin Reeves being number 10 feels like a meme pick, honestly. I don't get why 170,000 people have voted for Austin Reeves to potentially start in the All-Star game, but he's on this list. I think looking more towards the East, Paolo Banchero is having a really good season, and I think he should be higher than he is. He definitely deserves to be over Kuzma, and you can make a case for him being over Porzingis and Bridges. I think Paolo should definitely get the nod as an all-star, if not being like one of the first to be like called up if he doesn't get it.
No, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
would love to see him in the All-Star game this year. He 100% deserves it. Such a fun player, super young. The Magic as a whole have looked solid this year, and I just love Paolo, man.
Yeah, considering they're like tied for 4th in the East right now with like the Cavs and the Knicks, and they're just behind, the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers. Paolo definitely deserves that nod. I cannot believe that Scotty Barnes is not on here. I know, biased Raptors fan take. Scotty's been playing unbelievable. He's the heart and soul of this team. Kyle Kuzma. So you're like, I don't have a problem with a lot of the other people in the front court. Like, obviously, he's not going to start. Giannis, Joel, and Tatum seems like the most surefire lock of the top 3 front court ever. And then you could put Jimmy, you could put Jaylen Brown, Bam, sure. Mikal Bridges, sure. Porzingis, he's had a good year, but do you really need 4 All-Stars in the Boston Celtics starting lineup? There's a case for 5 because Drew Holiday is also on this list for some reason. Also, why the hell is Drew Holiday on here? He's not having an All-Star season whatsoever. Derek White actually deserves his spot on the list, but there's just a lot going on here. I think Paolo deserves to be higher. Scotty deserves to be on here in the first place. I really don't know why Kyle Kuzma is. Also, shout out Terry Rozier. I think he deserves that last spot amongst the East guards. Maybe not to actually make it, but to at least be on here. LaMelo Ball has been out for a while. Terry Rozier is averaging like a cool 23-7 on the Hornets right now. I think he's playing. He's balling out, even though they're so bad. He's balling out. Although, I think it seems like the last 2 spots in the West are just always whatever guards are on the Lakers or Warriors or whoever else. Just throw them in
every
there.
time.
I mean, this is what is so frustrating about the fan vote system, though. It feels like every year there's just someone undeserving that the fans just find funny, or someone that's popular based on their name that just gets way too high in the fan vote for no reason. And thank God the fans only decide the starters, so I guess that's a way of eliminating that. But every time they publish these voting returns, it's just a complete clown show.
Oh, every time. I mean, again, why isn't Anthony Edwards above James Harden and Kyrie Irving? Like, you can make an easy case for him being like deserved to be top 3, even over Shea if you want to. He deserves to be in the top
I don't know about over Shea.
I'm just gonna say Harden is averaging like 17 points a game. Kyrie's having a very solid season, but he's missed time. Edwards is balling out of his mind. He should be number 4. He should be top 4 automatically. I really dislike the fact that Harden is over Anthony Edwards, considering the seasons they've each had.
Yeah, I would agree. I have less problem with Harden being over him than Kyrie, considering how good the Clippers have been. But Kyrie, he's always going to be up there. Same with Dame, always being up there, in terms of the guards. Yeah. So with that being said, is the starting 5 for each conference seems pretty solid at this point. The West, here's how the starting 5 should go. It should be Luka, Shea, KD, LeBron, and Jokic. And then in the East, it should be Halliburton, Lillard, Tatum, Giannis, and Embiid. Based off, these voting returns, you could argue maybe Steph Curry is going to start in the West. I think it has to be Luka and Shea. And then that forward spot, you could argue a little bit, but
I might argue for Trae Young over Dame as well.
I would argue for Trae over Dame. I'd argue for Mitchell over Dame. I'd argue for Maxey over Dame. I'd argue for Brunson over Dame.
You're going a little far. I'm
just saying there's a lot of great guard play in the East, and I don't think Lillard's I think you could put any of those guys in besides Dame, and I think it'd be a really good starting 5. I just think that they all deserve it with reasonably strong cases varying. they all have a case to be like, oh, I should be starting over Dame this season.
I do have to say though, I love that Halliburton's getting his love.
Halliburton,
the fact that he's
Halliburton should be the lock of the century. He should be.
No, but the fact that he's number one in the East, like he's the kind of guy that obviously he's getting more, like he's getting more popularity with the fans this season. But I'm happy that he's actually getting recognized for it in the returns.
Yeah, he has the same amount of votes as Steph Curry after the first return, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, that is actually pretty nuts, especially because the way the Warriors fans always vote. I mean, that's pretty insane.
Considering the global fan base that the Warriors have as well. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton has more votes than every single player on here. Then Luka, Steph are the only guards that have more than him in the league. And then you got Tatum, Embiid, Giannis, KD, LeBron, Jokic. That's the only people that have more than him. So really stands out and shows why he, should be starting. So we're going to move on to some NFL. Yesterday, I know it didn't count in the fantasy season, but CeeDee Lamb had another huge game in what was a pretty meaningless game anyway. But he is now officially the wide receiver 1 of this year, surpassing Tyreek Hill. CeeDee Lamb had the 3rd highest PPR scoring season ever in fantasy for a wide receiver. Just the 3rd receiver to go over 400 total points, which is just absolutely insane. The last one to do it was Cooper Kupp. So going into the 2024 season, which wide receiver are you drafting first next year? Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, or CeeDee Lamb?
I mean, to me, there's one answer. It's still absolutely Justin Jefferson. The man missed 7 games this season and still got 1,000 yards. That is insane. I mean, he basically averaged 100 yards a game. And we know how good this guy is. You can't expect the Vikings quarterback situation to be this bad again next year. Obviously, Kirk Cousins' injury was a massive part of the team's struggles as a whole offensively. And whether Kirk is back or not, I have to imagine the quarterback play would be better than Nick Mullen / Jaron Hall. And if you've got someone competent giving Justin Jefferson the football, he's going to cook. And that's also assuming he plays a full season, which aside from this season, he's had a pretty good track record with health. So to me, it's absolutely Jefferson until truly proven otherwise.
Yeah, and this is not a debate of who's better. It's more of who would you want, who would you draft first on your fantasy team? Mm-hmm. Take into account what offenses they play for and who the quarterbacks are. So you could easily make the case that Justin Jefferson is the most talented, but his QB situation of these 3 is probably the worst. So,
but he still puts up the numbers.
Yeah, that is true. But
he still puts up the numbers, but I want to feel confident in my wide receivers quarterback play. So I think out of the 3, I'm actually fading Jefferson right now the most, only because we're unsure of what his quarterback situation looks like next year, whether Kirk Cousins is still the organization or they draft someone or they trade for someone. We have no idea who's going to be throwing to Justin Jefferson next year. And don't get me wrong, Justin Jefferson's absolutely a first-round pick. But I'm looking at Tyreek Hill first right now because I think Tua Tagovailoa had a fantastic season. Tyreek Hill, he missed 1 game all season. He was extremely consistent when he was on the field for fantasy. And while CeeDee Lamb overall had the better season points-wise, we all know that, if you're taking just based off of pure talent, you're probably leaning with Tyreek Hill overall. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill, the fastest wide receiver in the NFL. He's down there somewhere. Throw a go route to him, and there's I'd say around a 40% chance turns into a touchdown any given play.
I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. I can't believe it. I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. I think he has the best quarterback situation out of the 3. I think, yes, Tua is good, but the Cowboys are a more pass-heavy offense. There are less mouths to feed. Miami has such a talented skill group. Jalen Waddle is right there in terms of talent. Plus, you have Achane. I just think Dallas, it's less crowded. He's only competing with Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup. It's not as big of a deal. And CeeDee Lamb's going to get the targets. He just broke the record for most receptions in the season by a Cowboy and yards. Plus, he's younger. And just the way that the Cowboys' philosophy works is they're going to throw the ball to 88. So I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb, and I'm going to take him. Honestly, I might take him first overall next year, just depending. What pick I have. I'm not trusting the running backs. And between Jefferson, Hill, and Lamb, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb all day long. It's so hard, though. To even rank these 3 in terms of their actual skill and talent is is pretty tough. But we might have to have this discussion another day of has CeeDee Lamb surpassed Jamar Chase, or was that only because of the quarterback situation and who's better there?
Honestly, just the top of the receivers in the NFL right now is just such an interesting debate. I mean, where does AJ Brown fall in that mix as well? I mean,
Stephon Diggs.
Like the top of the top of the receivers
Adams.
right now. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So many guys you can make a case being like, oh, they're top 5, oh, they're top 3, but it's like you only have 5 spots to work with in those top 3, top 5 conversations. I feel like you can go to there's got to be around 10 wide receivers right now in today's game where you can be like, yeah, that's a top 5 receiver, even though they can't all be top 5. There's probably around 10 of them that you can be like, oh, that's definitely a top 5 worthy guy.
Yeah. And that's why, honestly, I don't think there is a true answer to anything. It's all subjective. You have the old head who will tell you Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, and, someone else are all top 5. And then you have someone else who will tell you Chase, Lamb, AJ Brown, Tyreek, Jefferson are top 5.
The only thing we know for sure is that running backs are no longer first-round fantasy value at all. 0 RB is the new meta.
Except for Christian McCaffrey.
It's pretty much just Christian McCaffrey and wide receivers for the rest of the round. I feel like running back is now a second-round position. Wide receiver is the first-round position.
Yep. I think you really can't go wrong drafting any of the premier guy. We didn't even mention Amon-Ra St. Brown. And there's like tons of premier guys you could take in the first round, no problem. It's going to be a receiver heavy draft next year. Let's move on to our wild card round predictions. So we're going to start out. We'll do a rapid fire of all the games with our predictions, and then we'll dive into each one more specifically. So give me your AFC wild card predictions. Browns, Texans. Zach.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns here. My main concern with the Houston Texans is inexperience right now. This is a much different group than the last time we saw them in the playoffs. C.J. Stroud in his first ever playoff game. I expect Stroud to do well, but it's a very tough Cleveland defense that he's going up against, and that's what I expect to put the Browns over the top.
Yeah, look, my heart says the Texans, but my head says the Browns, and I think I have to roll with my head here. I mean, the Texans have been such a fun story this season. Stroud, obviously incredible. DeMeco Ryans, unbelievable in his first year as their head coach. And they do have home field in this game. But with the way the Browns have been playing since Joe Flacco stepped in, that offense looks better than it even did when Deshaun Watson was playing earlier in the season. And their defense is truly one of the 3 best in the NFL and a really game-shattering unit. So I think I have to roll with the Browns as much as in my heart I want to pick the Texans.
Screw it. I'm picking the Texans. The playoffs is all about heart. And as much as I love the Joe Flacco story and how good the Browns have been with him at the helm, I'm taking the Rookie of the Year to continue his dominant run with the Texans. That Cleveland Browns defense is good. The Texans offense is better. I think that they're going to get rolling again. I mean, now that Nico Collins has been healthy for a few weeks, CJ Stroud's been healthy for a few weeks, Devin Singletary is looking like a very, very competent and solid running back in the backfield for them, much more than Dameon Pierce ever could have been. And their defense has also been making plays. Derek Stingley Jr. making a lot of plays as well. And I know that the Browns have been a little bit banged up recently, and all it takes is, one more injury to Amari Cooper or whoever else is out there, one wrong hit to Joe Flacco, and all of a sudden things get really bad. So I'm going to take the Houston Texans, even though Cleveland is only favored by 2.5 points in this game. So it's going to be close regardless, but I'm going to take the Texans to come out on top. CJ Stroud wins his first career playoff game. Let's move on. Dolphins, Chiefs, the Mahomes Tyreek rematch. Jack, you start us off with this one.
I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I don't feel good about it, but it's at Arrowhead, and God knows that's a really tough place to play in the playoffs. And you've got Patrick Mahomes on that side, and that defense has been incredible for the Chiefs this year. If you look at the Dolphins, yes, their offense has been really explosive, but they've been dealt with so many injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and it's shown on the field. That defense has not been the same since Jalen Phillips went down and then Bradley Chubb. It's a real problem for them. And I think that they're going to have a lot of issues forcing Mahomes to feel some pressure. And if Mahomes has time to throw, even if the receivers can't catch, he'll find Kelsey, he'll find Rashee Rice, and he'll dice up that defense. So I'm going to roll with the Chiefs at home.
Yeah, I mean, can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going with the Dolphins on this one. I feel like if if this was Bills at Chiefs, it'd be a different story. I feel weird about the Bills this year. They either look really good or really bad, and that can happen in the same game. The Dolphins, I think they'll be able to take care of business. They're also a team that's very trendy, but again, if everything just goes right, I know it's Arrowhead, I know it's Mahomes, but this is the weakest Chiefs team we've probably seen in the Mahomes era. Their offense barely functions whatsoever, and while they have a dominant defense, they need to be able to score points. And I'm telling you, Miami will probably be able to limit their turnovers and just drive the ball down the field. I expect the Dolphins to win in a close one at Arrowhead.
I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. I'm with Jack on this. The Dolphins have still not impressed in any big game. The one game that they did was against the Cowboys, and that was it. They still looks like they fall flat on their face every time they face a good opponent. And I know that they were without Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert last week. Hopefully they're both expected to be back for the Chiefs game. So I think that does change the line a little bit and helps the Dolphins out. But when it's all said and done, it is Tyreek Hill, it is Jalen Waddle on one side, but you got Patrick Mahomes leading the other helm, and I just trust Patrick Mahomes to get it done over Tua Tagovailoa when it comes down to it. Funny question, though. If you swap these wide receiver rooms, I don't know if the Dolphins win more than 5 games, and the Chiefs will go undefeated. If you swap these wide receiver rooms, give Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek back, and Jalen Waddle, and give Tua, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney, I think that Dolphins, you're saying hello to Marvin Harrison Jr. next year. So unfortunately, that's not the case, and they have to play with what they got. But I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. The Dolphins have not impressed in any big game at all this year. Now would be the time to do it, and they shot themselves in the foot by losing that game when they could have had the Steelers in round 1. Could have. And you know what? Let's go on to that game. Bills-Steelers. All right, let me tell you, this game is the perfect storm. The Bills, they always play worse when they play a bad team that they're expected to beat. The Steelers somehow magically play better when they are widely expected to lose by everybody watching. What does this give you? I don't know how the Bills are favored by 9.5, but the Steelers plus 10 is the freest bet you've ever placed in your life. And I'm not promoting betting. I'm not saying you should go do that. However, there is just simply no way that Josh Allen puts together a competent, full, complete game against the Steelers in prime time, in the playoffs, getting ready to go, and wins by double digits. It's just not going to happen. So will the Bills win? Yes. Will they win by 9.5 points? Absolutely not. They're going to squeak this one out, probably win by like 3 or 4 points. It's going to be a low-scoring game, ugly game, bad way to start the playoffs, does not give them any momentum, but Steelers plus 10.
No. As a Steelers fan, I have no confidence going into this game. The Bills over the last 7 weeks are 6-1. And it's not like a week 6-1. They've had a tough schedule. They've got wins over the Chiefs. They've got wins over the Cowboys. They've got wins over the Dolphins in those 6 games. And the one loss was that 3-point loss against the Eagles, which was arguably their most impressive looking game out of all of them. So I just think the Bills have been on an absolute roll since the rough start to the season. I think Josh Allen, the second half of the season, has been way, way, way better than he was in the beginning, he's much more conscious with his turnovers. And not to mention, the Steelers are without TJ Watt next week. That's the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I think the Bills are going to steamroll him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Steelers team that I really thought was not going to finish over 500, let alone be in the playoffs. And we all know this is not a team that can win the Super Bowl or anything. But, I mean, the Bills, like Jesse said, the Bills will find a way to make this game way closer than it needs to be. I like the Bills, but just slightly. There's no way they cover 9.5 points. I think Steelers plus whatever points, that's pretty much a lock. But I feel like the Bills are going to give us about 5 heart attacks and then sneak by on a last minute field goal or something like that. Like this game's going to be unnecessarily close for a Bills team that should be able to beat the Steelers pretty easily.
Yeah, it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be like 27-3 or ridiculously close, like 17-14 or something. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll be the first one. Now we'll move on to the NFC. So let's do our NFC wildcard predictions. Packers, Cowboys. Jordan Love in his last 8 games, 18 touchdowns to 1 interception, 6-2 record. The Pack, are they back, Jack? That was a lot of rhymes.
That was a lot of rhymes. That was a scary amount of rhymes. Part of me really wants to pick the Packers. I like the way they've played down the stretch this year. I think Jordan Love has looked awesome, and I think he is their quarterback of the future. But the Cowboys have been good this year. And we all know the Cowboys love to choke come playoff time, so not that I would be surprised if they managed to blow this game, but I think this year might be different. This might be the year that we actually see the most complete version of the Cowboys that we have seen in this Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy era. And I think that if there ever was a year that the Cowboys wouldn't choke, it would be this one. So I think at least for this round, I'm going to roll with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that the Cowboys are going to win this one. It's in Dallas. I mean, they're hosting this game. Jordan Love, honestly, the fact that they got to 9-8, I was thinking they'd go 8-9, 9-8, right around the 500 mark. I didn't think it was enough to make the playoffs, but here they are. Jordan Love having a great second half of the season, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I really think Dallas is going to roll here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Dallas sweep. As good as the Packers have looked some weeks, they've looked really bad in other weeks. And it's like one or the other here. And, they lost pretty poorly to the Bucs at home. And I don't think the Bucs are on any level of the Cowboys. And going into Dallas has just been so good. If this was in Lambeau, I would give them like a 50-50 shot to win this game. Since it's in Dallas, it's not looking good. And -7 for Dallas is already the spread. But yeah, I'm going to take Dallas. I confidently think that they're going to win this game. It's going to get real when they end up matching with the Niners. That's the only real playoff game for the Cowboys. But hopefully they're not looking past the Packers already, because that's a good way for them to get a sneaky loss in wildcard weekend. However, Jair Alexander is back from his hilariously dumb suspension for doing the coin toss when he shouldn't have. So he got himself suspended for the last win and in game of the season, ended up not mattering anyways. So he could be the X factor for giving Green Bay a chance. He's likely going to be on CD all day. I know Jair is a pretty man-heavy corner, so he's probably going to be seeing a lot of CD Lamb, and I guess we'll see how the rest of the Cowboys team shows up. So moving on, Rams-Lions. This could be the game of the year, okay? Despite facing the 6th seed, is going against hometown hero Matthew Stafford the worst case scenario for the Lions? Jack.
I mean, I think the Rams are absolutely the most dangerous of the bottom 3 seeds in the NFC. So, I mean, yeah, of the potential options, this is definitely scary for the Lions. They've looked solid for the last few weeks, but they've had their ups and downs this season. They've had a lot of moments where, like, are they frauds? Are they not? Are they legit? Although they did play really well in their most recent test against the Cowboys, even though they came up just short. But, man, I think I'm going to go with the Rams. I love the Rams right now. They're playing great football, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Matthew Stafford, honestly, the fact that his name didn't come up at all in MVP discussions this year is a little bit interesting to me, because he quietly has had an outstanding season for the Rams. Of course, the emergence of Puka, the emergence of Kyron Williams, you still got Cooper Kupp. This is a legit, really, really good offense. And they're going up against the Lions defense that has not been perfect this year. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson has been really, really good. But outside of him, especially in the secondary, it's a little bit concerning. I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a field day. I think Puka and Cooper Kupp are going to have field days. And I think this game will end up being somewhat of a shootout, but I think the Rams end up taking it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm sticking with the home team regardless. I know this is a very exciting Rams team, but it's a lot weaker than the squad that went to the Super Bowl overall. I mean, that team was signing a new veteran every week to join the squad to get them to the Super Bowl, it felt like. I mean, they were just kind of building a super team every single week. You had like, oh, here's Von Miller joining them. Oh, I think Bobby Wagner was on that team. Like every single week there was a new veteran added to that team. This year's Rams are not built for a deep run, unfortunately. Very exciting to see what they do on offense, but their defense is kind of like all right. It's nothing that I'm really going to be like screaming about, really going to be talking about. I like the Lions. They look like the more complete team overall. I expect them to be a dark horse contender in this year's playoffs. I'm taking Detroit to get the win at home against their former quarterback.
I don't know. To me, this is just the absolute worst outcome for Detroit because facing any of the other teams in the playoffs, like even higher seeds than them, I think they would have had a better chance because this storyline, whoever the script writers, give them a bonus. Matthew Stafford coming back to Detroit for their first playoff game in 30 years or their first home playoff game. And the fact that, I mean, this is a win-win for Stafford. He's either walking out with a playoff win or, letting the city of Detroit have a win for once. So I think that this is bad for the I think this is bad for the Lions. I'm very terrified of that Rams offense. I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. Both teams in the high 20s, maybe 30s as well. The Rams defense has been playing better than the Lions has of late. So we'll just see which offense starts to slow down first. So I'm going to take the Rams in this game, though. They've been absolutely on a tear lately, and having that underdog with them the whole year, and this team, remind you, is like 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. So yeah, the roster's a lot different, and they've got a lot more young talent now. But this is a scary team, and I fear that Detroit's lack of experience and being in the playoffs might catch up with them. Separate discussion. Who would you rather have for the next 5 years, Puka or Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Ooh. That's a very tough decision.
Oh man, that's really tough. I think I have to say Amon-Ra, but I really want to say Puka because I feel like Puka has more upside. I think, but just based on his play style, the way he's able to be an outside receiver and just dominate from that position, but also play in the slot, as we saw earlier in the year when Cooper Kupp went down, he's a much more versatile player than Amon-Ra is. Amon-Ra is a slot guy through and through, which is not to say that that's that huge of a knock. He's one of the best slot receivers in the entire league, but there is somewhat of a ceiling on the value that a slot receiver can have for your team. And while that might be a top 10 receiver, I don't know that he'll ever be top 5. I'm not saying Puka will be top 5, but I think he has the room to get there. So it's definitely a really close and interesting debate. I think I would slightly lean with Amon-Ra because the production that we've seen is over a much longer period of time at this point, and we know exactly what Amon-Ra is. We don't know exactly what Puka is moving forward, but I really do love Puka's upside.
I'm gonna go with the most, bare bones reason why I'm selecting one guy over the other. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 6 foot flat. Puka is 6'2". I'm gonna lean Puka. I mean, both are fantastic. Both do everything so well. Both are great route runners. Both are great catching the ball. Both are great making tacklers miss. Both do everything that you'd want from a wide receiver one in your offensive system. I'm just going to go with the most basic comparison ever and take the guy who's a little bit taller and has a little bit bigger of a frame, and that's Puka. Both are phenomenal, though. I would be thrilled to have either one on my team.
Yeah, it comes down to the same thing. Do you want a guy who's possibly the best slot receiver in the league, or do you want a guy who could be a top 5 slot receiver in the league, but also, top 5, top 10 out wide? So I think Puka gives you a little more versatility. He's also younger, so I think I would have to go with Puka on this, even though this is do you want gold or diamonds? It's like either way you're filthy rich. So we're going to move on. The game of the year, Eagles Bucks. Zach.
Man.
That's all I got to say. Eagles Bucks. Do you have a single ounce of confidence left in the Eagles?
No, I have zero faith that we're going to be able to win this. Look, I don't get how Chad Ochocinco talked himself into thinking that the Eagles are playing possum and hiding something. I don't think I've ever seen a team look as flat and unmotivated as the Eagles have these past 2 weeks. I don't care if it's a player issue. It looks like a coaching issue, if anything. There's just nothing to look forward to. On top of the Eagles losing 5 of their last 6, the Bucks have won 5 of their last 6. So they're coming off maybe not the prettiest end of the season, but definitely, a lot more winning going on there. I don't know why the Eagles are even favored. This game should be a pick 'em, not Eagles -2.5. It should be a pick 'em, honestly. This could go either way, but we're going to make Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady. I'm going to say Bucks win by 3 scores. Crazy like that.
Wow.
Look,
All right.
I'm just going to say 2021 playoffs, repeat of that.
Okay, well, if the Eagles played literally any other team in the playoffs, I think I would pick against them. Like, literally, you could take anyone else 1-7 on either side, and I would take them over the Eagles. The one team that I would take the Eagles over in the playoffs is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they don't belong. This is not a playoff team. They're average on their best day. And we saw them last week. They went up against the Carolina Panthers. They won 9-0. I mean, come on. This team is just not good at football. And even an underperforming Eagles team that they've had flat performance after flat performance, disappointment after disappointment, that team is still better than the Buccaneers. The talent is just too good to lose to that team. And even if the coaching is terrible, I think the Eagles could win this game 9-0. They could do what the Bucks did to the Panthers. I don't see a world where the Bucks win a playoff game. So I think I have to take the Eagles.
Jack, I think you're forgetting one thing. The only team that gets bailed out by a high-end talent consistent enough to make it part of their game plan is the Steelers. We are not the Steelers, okay? We are a team that blew the game against Seattle, barely scratched out a win against the Giants on Christmas, then lost to the Cardinals by blowing that game as well. We completely blew that game pretty much the exact same way we blew the Seahawks game and almost blew the Giants game. And then we got blown out by the Giants yesterday. I don't know how you can watch the last month of Eagles football and feel any confidence in this team whatsoever to do anything in the playoffs.
It's not that I have confidence in the Eagles. It's that I think that the Eagles have talent on their roster. The Buccaneers do not. This is not a playoff caliber. Okay, that's not fair to say. I see Jesse's face there. That's not fair to say.
You want to talk about almost Pro Bowler? Antoine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, look, the Eagles and the Bucks played each other earlier in the season before the Eagles stopped just playing football the right way, and the Bucks kept it close. The Bucks had a really good game against them. I was impressed by Tampa Bay. I thought, maybe this could be a team that ends up winning the division, and now they're here. Baker Mayfield's going to look just like Tom Brady, throwing to Mike Evans over the middle with no one covering Mike Evans over the middle. All they have to do is put their guys on slant routes, and they will win this football game very easily.
The Buccaneers in any other division are a 6-win team.
It doesn't matter. They're here now, and the Eagles lost to a 4-win team.
Yeah, a 6-win team would actually be their toughest opponent in a few weeks.
Dude, I'm just saying. I mean, look, the Bucks on paper aren't anything special, and the Eagles on paper should be Super Bowl contenders. But because of just how everything has worked out, because of the coaching, because of recent results, everything to me points to the Bucks winning this game easily.
Yeah, unfortunately, football games are not won on paper. They're won on the field. And when it comes down to it, I don't think the Buccaneers' offensive skill group is that far off of the Eagles. I mean, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and DeAndre Swift, I would say, are like an A+ when it comes to a skill position group. I think the Bucks are an A- with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rachaad White. I mean, Rachaad White has had an under-the-radar phenomenal season at running back, catching tons of passes out the backfield as well. I think it's very possible that the Eagles and the Bucks, both score some points in this game, but the Buccaneers defense has shown some life, and They're a very blitz-heavy team, and they love to get after the quarterback. And I'm excited to see what happens with Jalen Hurts standing in the pocket for multiple seconds and how they respond to that, because we already know the Eagles are not going to call any type of quick slants or quick passes to counter the blitz. So it's just not going to happen. So I'm excited to see how the Eagles defense game plans for their offense. I'm excited to see how the Eagles offense game plans for that defense. And yeah, if games were won on paper, the Eagles would be 2-time Super Bowl champions. However, in the last 2 years, however, it's not, and they're not. So with all of that being said, Bucks by 40. No, not by 40, but I'm taking the Bucks. Tampa Bay.
I just can't see the Bucks winning again.
Bucks by 20, baby. Bucks by 20. I might actually get I might actually find a way to put money on this. I'm not of legal age, but I might actually find a way to put money on this. Just for the Eagles to bring me some joy. So it's a win-win situation. Either the Eagles somehow do the impossible and learn how to play football again, or I win like $20. Win-win.
I would take anyone else. Literally, I would take the Mason Rudolph Steelers over the Eagles right now. I would take the Packers over the Eagles.
I don't know why you're sleeping on the Bucks when Baker Mayfield is going to look like Tom Brady.
I just don't see it.
Baker Mayfield is going to look like Tom Brady on Monday night playoff football. I'm telling you,
it's the same thing, because the last time it was Monday as well. They were the last game of Wild Card Weekend, and it was like 31-15 for the Bucks.
Yeah, no, literally. I would honestly even predict that same score. I don't care. Like the Eagles are going to lose by at least 14. Like I can see it. I might find an alt spread of like maybe like Bucks minus 10, however much that is, and I'd put money on that. I'm dead serious. I have that little faith in my football team right now. It has been unwatchable football.
Okay, so here's a question: who had the greater collapse, the 10-1 Eagles or the 11-0 Steelers?
Man.
Jack, I have a question. What was the final record of those 11-0 Steelers? I actually forget. I'm
12-4.
It was 12-4, and then we lost in the first round to the Browns.
Okay.
Badly too. There was like the first play of the game was a fumble touchdown, and you guys were down.
We got smoked by the Browns.
28-0 in the
game. Thank you. I'm going to argue that right now it's these 11-1 Eagles suffering the bigger collapse, because they are the first NFL team ever to I think it was reach 10 wins by a certain time and then not finish the season with. They couldn't, in their last 6 games, they couldn't win 2 games. That is just putrid. This has to be up there as one of the worst collapses I've seen in sports history. If not, it's got to be up there as one of the worst in Philadelphia history, especially for a regular season.
There's
collapse.
A lot to choose from. So
there are a lot of collapses to choose from this past year's Phillies to the '93 Phillies in the World Series.
Don't even get started on the Sixers.
The Sixers with Doc Rivers, just that. I mean, that was kind of a guaranteed collapse. But with just how prolonged this collapse has been as well, this has to rank pretty high in all-time Philadelphia.
So is it worse than the Steelers going 11-0 and then
I think it's genuinely worse than the Steelers because, first of all, zero faith they win on Monday night. I have zero faith they're going to win. It's going to complete the collapse. Secondly, at least the Steelers reached 12 wins. We never reached 12 wins. And
you guys had the extra game too.
Yeah. We had an extra game to reach 12 wins and we still couldn't do it. You start 10-1 and end up going 11. What was it? 11 and 5. I'm
11-6.
11-6.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Look, while we're on the topic of the Eagles collapse, I need to get something off my chest here. What aside from being Mr. Philly, what exactly does Nick Sirianni do for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Because and this might be controversial. I'm not a Nick Sirianni hater.
It's not.
What
People
does he do?
Calling for Sirianni's head for about 3 weeks. You're fine.
Because if you think about it, like when he first got there, he was the play caller. Didn't do very well, handed it over to Steichen. It got much better. Last season, Steichen looked really good. The offense looked really good. Gannon had his ups and downs with the Eagles, but overall, I would say more ups than downs. The defense looked pretty good. You lose both of them. Steichen looks good with the Colts. Gannon looks good with the Cardinals. What do the Eagles do now that you're just left with Sirianni?
Matt Patricia.
It's not very good. So I will beg the question one more time. What exactly does Nick Sirianni do?
To me, Sirianni's one of those coaches who's more of a locker room guy than a play caller. Like
He
he's the guy who
cries
gets
during the
everyone
national anthem.
Yep. I mean, he's one of those coaches where, like, yeah, he's not going to have the best schemes or the best ideas, but he's a locker room guy and the players support him. To me, a lot of the blame falls on the coordinators and how poorly they've done. And again, some of it does fall on Sirianni for some brain dead decisions as well. But for me, the biggest things I can take away is that if anyone should be fired, it should be our offensive coordinator. I have been struggling to watch every single snap from shotgun, nothing else, only shotgun snaps this entire season. And you really start to notice it when the Eagles aren't playing well, when instead of, taking fairly decent risks, they just run screen passes and run plays and QB draws. And on top of that, we changed defensive play calling, like for the second half of the season, was a very odd and weird choice by Sirianni. Desai was not good, but Patricia's just kind of worse, and switching schemes in the middle of the season is just kind of setting up your team for disaster, and that's exactly what happened. And the final thing is one thing that people really liked about Sirianni for his first couple of years in Philly is that he was always hyper aggressive when it came to play calling. He was always going for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3s. Times where you don't always get the result you want, but if you can get that first down, it's huge. He seems to be more conservative now, and that loss of his edge is a really big detriment to how the Eagles have operated this season. So those are the main issues I personally have with the Eagles. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they cleaned house completely, get rid of all coaches and just rebuild the culture. But I don't know. I think out of everyone, Sirianni will probably keep his job. I just hope that the others are gone, honestly.
It's not surprising that when you get rid of your offensive and defensive coordinator, that the offense and defense don't look as good the next season.
Well, I mean, yes, that's common. But if you watch how the system runs, especially, I feel like offense is a lot more noticeable. Defense, it's had some really bad games. That's also because, again, they switched schemes in the middle of the season, which is also just ridiculous. But on offense, you can see throughout the entire season, almost every single snap has been run from shotgun. We have little to no pre-snap motion, which is just honestly a backwards kind of system for the NFL. Like, pretty much every team runs double, triple the pre-snap motion that we call right now, and it just makes our offense very predictable. You have Christian McCaffrey calling our plays on live television, sitting on his couch. I mean, it doesn't get more predictable than that. So I've been embarrassed watching the Eagles ever since they, I was embarrassed even when we were winning because we were only winning close, and we couldn't prove that we were actually a good team with the talent that we had. We couldn't prove it. We didn't have any dominant wins this season. So we've always been worried, and now here's the reason why we were worried this entire time. Here's the reason why I was complaining when we were 10-1.
Yeah, honestly, if anything we can learn from this season, it's that Zach complaining about the Eagles when they were 10-1 was actually valid. And we were all just like, Zach, why are you complaining so much? Your team is so good.
Zach, why are you oh my God, you're complaining about a 10-win team. How can you complain about a 10-win team?
Little did we know they would stay a 10-win team for 5 weeks.
I was on top of this, and I knew that there were flaws in the Eagles, but they really presented themselves over the last month and a half. They really did.
Well, we'll see how it all shakes out in just a few days, really. I mean, we'll get in, actually not a few days, a week, because they're on Monday, but we'll see how it all shakes out. And this time next week, we'll either have very angry yet I told you so Zach, or a shocked but still weirdly anticipating disappointment Zach. So you guys will get to see which one.
Honestly, I don't think I'll even be too upset if we lose to the Bucks. The only way I'd be upset is if we lost in like heartbreaking fashion, where it was like, oh, we made a really dumb decision and that's what cost us the game. A la Alabama QB draw from like, what was like the 15-yard line?
Don't manifest it, because we very well could see a tush push from the 5-yard line with the game on the line.
That's not even the worst idea that I could come up with. I really think QB draw from the 10 is the worst idea I could come up with.
No, I think that this game ends with they get the ball on the 1-yard line. There's only time for maybe 1 or 2 plays. They have no timeouts, and they tush push it don't get it and don't have time to get back to the line and the clock runs out.
That would be
Season over.
brutal,
Yeah.
but honestly, very fitting to the end of the season. Honestly, that would be very
No,
fitting.
look, either way, we should be in for an absolute ride next week. So buckle up. I can't wait to see some Zach, either depression or shock. Either way, it's going to be a great show.
Look, it's either going to be shock or let's go Sixers / Flyers. Or maybe I'll just get a whiteboard that has X amount of days until pitchers and catchers report.
All right. Well, we have another game here. One second, let me pull it up. So
We're out here gaming.
Hopefully, I'm not too rusty.
Yeah, Mr. Worldwide been traveling the world trying to improve his skills at trivia.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to help me with NFL, but maybe if we start to get some more foreign players in the NFL, who knows?
all right. So for today's trivia, we got some NFL rushing trivia. So can you name every player to rush for 150 yards this season in a game?
Okay.
So
All right.
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. There are 12 names.
Okay. You know what?
All right.
I'll start it off. I feel like this is a fairly safe guess. Give me Saquon Barkley.
No.
What? That was your first guess?
That was my first because who else are the Giants using on offense?
Oh my God.
No, Saquon Barkley actually has only rushed for over 100 once, and he had
Whoa.
128. This is not scrimmage, by the way. It's just straight rushing.
Okay.
All right.
That makes a
Well,
little
I'll go with the one guy that I know with absolute certainty because he did it this past week. My boy on Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor.
Yep, Jonathan Taylor, one of 4 players who did it recently. So,
Okay.
or
Well,
one of 4 players who did it this week. So Jonathan
Whoa.
Taylor.
Whoa. Okay. Well, if this isn't right, I don't know what to say anymore. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is number 10 with 152 yards.
All right. I'm pretty sure this one happened. I would be surprised if it didn't. Kyron Williams definitely did, right?
Kyron Williams definitely did. He had 152 as well.
All right. I'm going to say there's 2 guys I want to name, and I think they could both be on this list. I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert.
No, Raheem Mostert never got that many yards,
That's-
but I know somebody else who did.
Yeah, I don't want to cherry pick it. That's not fun. I'll leave it for Zach. He alley-ooped it to himself. I'm gonna go with a weird name that I think sticks out of my memory because of how weird it is. Zamir White did it, didn't he?
So close. Zamir White had 145 yards.
Oh,
He is the first
yeah.
name off the list.
Damn.
Ooh, that is rough.
Good
But-
try though.
But I did alley-oop myself. That means Devon Achane is on this list.
203 yards, the most out of anybody. Also, he had 151, so he's actually on here twice.
I just could not remember which Dolphins running back had that big day. Turns out it was Achane. But both of them, though, both Mostert
Both
and
had 4
Achane.
touchdowns. He just had the 200
Oh my,
yards.
yeah, exactly. I just confused my stat lines there. Both have had great seasons.
All right. I remember one of the ones that did it, I think this week. Low-key one of the better running backs this season, Breece Hall.
Breece Hall, he actually did it twice. He had
Wow.
177 and 178 yards. One against Denver, and then this past week against New England. So he is 4th on the list, 178.
It feels like it's a bit tougher now with some of these big names going off. What numbers do we have left?
3, let's see, 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11, 12. There's a lot.
Oh,
a lot.
lovely.
So far,
Yeah,
you've got HN, Taylor, Breece, Kyron, and CMC.
Okay.
Lots of big names left.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just trying to think of them, and right now I can't. You know what? I don't think he did it, but I think it'd be pretty cool. No, I'm not going to guess him because I don't think he did it. Only because
for
it's because the system he's in. There's no way that the Falcons would let Bijan Robinson rush for 150 yards. So I don't
You're
know why I was
correct.
even
He did not.
yeah, exactly. So you know what? I'm gonna go with my original guess, and this is no better, but I'm gonna guess that Rashad White did it one game.
No, Rashad White did not. He definitely got over that in scrimmage yards, but never just on the ground.
Fair enough.
All right. This one feels right. I think James Cook did it.
James Cook is third with 179 rushing yards versus the Cowboys of all people. So
Wow.
yeah, James Cook, top 4. There's one other guy here who's in the 170s, and then everyone else is below.
Oh my god. Someone had a dominant game, and I feel like I'm blanking on so many great running backs.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm like going through teams right now.
There's a really obvious one that we missed.
Well, then, I guess you'll get it next, as I'm blanking on like everyone. Already got him. Oh, did James Conner do it?
James Conner did it this past week, 150 on the nose against Seattle. I didn't even know that Seattle won that game, by the way. I had no idea that they came back and won because Matt Prater missed 2 field goals, allowing them to keep hold of the number 4 draft pick. So shout out Matt Prater for missing those kicks. James Conner, 150 on the dot.
All right. Well, let's give the king his crown, Derrick Henry.
King Henry is another player who did it this week. He had 153. So Derrick Henry, James Conner, Breece Hall, and Jonathan Taylor all did it this past weekend.
Nice. I'm going to go with a player who I know he had a few very good fantasy games. I'm going to say that Travis Etienne did it.
Nope, 136. He got pretty close, but not
quite. I mean, that's closer than I thought, but he definitely got it with scrimmage yards. He definitely did.
He's the third guy off the list.
All right. This is the first guess where I don't have a name immediately in my head. So this is going to take a little bit of brainstorming.
You guys are missing this could be 4 names, by the way. 4 names are left.
This one could be really stupid, but I know he had at least one really big game. Did Devin Singletary do it?
Yes, he did. Devin Singletary with
Wow.
also 150 on the nose against Cincinnati. Wow. Devin Singletary, number 12. Good job.
Wow.
3 names left, and all 3 players are on a team that was either fighting for a playoff spot or was in the playoffs.
All right, so we've about half the league to choose from. I don't think we've said Joe Mixon yet. Give me Joe Mixon.
Haven't said him because he's not on the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good
that
guess.
one didn't feel right. Man. Fighting for a playoff spot or in the playoffs? Did DeAndre Swift do it really early in the season?
He did. And DeAndre Swift had 175 rushing yards in a game against the Minnesota Vikings. I believe that was the first night, right?
That was like week 2. That was week 2.
Yeah,
September
week
14th.
2, yeah.
What a different time that was. What a different time. But he 1,000-yard rusher.
Remember when everyone thought that he was going to be the best running back pickup because the Eagles looked like they could actually run the ball competently?
I wish, dude. Honestly,
we're many moons away from that.
I'm just saying, if we had a good scheme still, Swift would have been 1,500 yards this year. He would have been.
So DeAndre Swift in week 2 is number 5. You guys have 2 names left, both right around the 150 mark. One of which I'm very surprised hasn't been said yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I figured we got all the obvious ones.
There's one, I don't know if obvious, but I'm surprised that Jack, you haven't gotten him. And there's another one.
Badger.
Yeah, it has to be a Badger because there's no way Najee did it. I'm pretty sure Warren didn't either.
No, he didn't.
It has to be a Badger. What Badger am I forgetting?
It doesn't have to be a
That's
Badger.
not JT. Well, okay. You're surprised. Who else do I love? It's not McCaffrey. We already got him.
I mean, it
not
could just be another
Bijan.
Niner.
It's not Bijan.
Is it another
No.
Niner?
It's not another Niner. Jahmyr
He
Gibbs.
sat. Well, huh?
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs. There it is.
There it is.
152 on the ground versus Vegas.
Wow.
Jahmyr Gibbs. All right, we got one left. That was the one I was surprised you didn't get because you were Mr. Bijan Gibbs on your fantasy team all year. So
I was.
All
Yeah,
right.
I love those. rookies.
Last one, Zach. Zach, you should actually get this last one.
I should get this last one. Ugh.
Yeah,
It's not like West
I'll
Virginia.
give you a hint. He is not a starter.
He is not a starter. And man, oh wait, would this be David Montgomery?
No, that's not a bad guess.
I thought that was a good guess because
He's
he had some,
technically considered the starter.
I
Oh,
have an
okay.
idea.
I'm
Well,
just saying
I-
Montgomery had some great games. I wouldn't have been shocked if he was on this list.
Yeah, I don't know why you would say Zach. You should get this one, but did Khalil Herbert do it?
No.
He had some really good games this year. Trust me. I'm not
Trust.
making that
It
up.
wasn't that good.
I'm not
This
making
player
that
had
up.
a-
Dude, trust me.
This
Khalil
player
Herbert
had
trust me, dude.
165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had 30 receiving yards in this game, so almost 200 total yards. Way back in October. And I say, Zach, you should get this.
Why? Who? You're making it sound like it's an Eagle, and I don't. It's not an
No,
Eagle.
not an Eagle.
someone had to have done it against the Eagles.
No, it
That's
wasn't
what I
against the
think.
Eagles.
No.
I'm saying that Zach should get this.
You're making me think of Zach Charbonnet, but
No.
it's not Zach Charbonnet.
Who else?
What? Zach
Who else
Moss.
is- Zach Moss.
Ah. Oh my god.
I couldn't say Zach more times without making it obvious.
Oh,
Zach
terrible by me.
Moss,
Terrible.
165 versus the Titans. That was before JT
Wow.
came back. So
Wow.
Oh my
Terrible
god.
job by me. Terrible.
horrible. Well,
Horrible.
that was a lot of
Horrible.
fun.
Can't get
Maybe
your own
we'll
namesake.
we can save our next one for next week because we're at time here. But that was a lot of fun. I could only say Zach so many times before I made it more obvious. So
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet wasn't a bad guess. But you're right there.
No. Let's be honest. That was a pretty bad guess.
No, it was just the wrong Zach.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just the wrong Zach. All right, well,
I really think of Charbonnet first because he has a more unique last name.
yeah, that's true. Zach Moss, you are the answer for today. We will see all of you back here this coming Wednesday or Thursday, dependingly. So we'll see you then before the playoffs get kickstarted this weekend. Lots of good football to be watched and lots of seasons coming to an end. Patriots season's over, but the off season's just getting started. So we'll see you back here on Wednesday or Thursday, and peace out. You'll catch us same time next week with our best reactions from the playoffs. That is a can't miss show. We'll see you then.